may begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call will reflect that all board members, cabinet, and superintendent are present. Approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting of May 16th, 2024?
So moved, Porras.
Is there a second?
Second, Pierce.
Any discussion? Hearing none, calls for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-0. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of May 21st, 2024?
So moved, Porras.
Is there a second?
Second, Alvarez.
Any discussion? Hearing none, calls for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-0. Board meeting addenda. Dr. May Volmer, are there any addenda?
No, there are not.
Thank you. Approval of agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda of the regular meeting of June 4th, 2024?
So moved, Porras.
Is there a second?
Second, Pierce.
Any discussion? Hearing none, calls for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-0. Community and staff student recognition. Dr. May Volmar.
Yes, I actually would like to, oh, good, I was scanning the audience there. I got nervous for a second. Francini Zavada, our Director of Community Engagement and Educational Foundation, will be filling in for Mary Perry this evening and will be sharing our recognitions.
All right, thank you so much. Good evening, Board President Watson, board members, cabinet staff, and community members. Thank you for allowing me to present this evening's recognition of our students. For several years, DSUSD students have competed locally in the Growing Coachella Valley Agri-Art Contest. This year, we have 8 winners, including the top prize winner, whose artwork has been transformed into a billboard. Please join me in welcoming Growing Coachella Valley board member Rob Foster, who will be presenting the awards with me. If you would like to come and stand up here with me. In addition, each student will be presented with a DSUSD certificate and a star pin for their lanyards. As you pick up your certificate, students, please line up at the front so that we can take a group photo once we've called all of your names. But before we do that, I'm actually going to hand it over to Mr. Foster to explain a little bit about the contest.
Hi, board. I just wanted to say I wanted to thank Mary Perry for coordinating this for us, and also thank the 24 teachers that encourage their kids to participate in our contest. And we're just in case anyone doesn't know, we're a nonprofit organization here in the Valley. When we champion agriculture, and we love doing this contest, and we had some really great entries. So wanted to thank the district. Thank you.
All right, so if you look at the screens, you will see the student artwork featured as we recognize the students. The artwork is also featured on the GCV Facebook. So we're about to begin. At the elementary school level, honorable mention to Lucinda Zarate, a 3rd grader in Mrs. Dolan's class at Abraham Lincoln Elementary School. So Lucinda, if you want to come up, we have a certificate for you that Mr. Foster will hand over. And Lucinda, can I have you stand right here in the middle, and then we're going to have you wait there for a moment. We're going to take a photo at the end, okay? All right. 3rd place and $50 go to Magali Orozco Ortiz, a 5th grader in Mrs. Perry's class at Abraham Lincoln Elementary School. Second place and $100 to Muli Amin. Hold on. Sorry. Second place and $100 to Muli Amin, a 5th grade student in Mrs. Cooperstein's class at George Washington Charter Elementary School. And first place and $200 to Antonio Coloma II, a 4th grade student in Mrs. Baker's class at Benjamin Franklin Elementary School. At the middle and high school level, honorable mention goes to Lisbeth Lorenzo, an 8th grade student in Mrs. Need's class at Indio Middle School. Congratulations. Third place and $200 go to Prachi Amin, an 8th grader in Mrs. Samaripa's class at Palm Desert Charter Middle School. Second place and $500 go to Audrey Hills, an 11th grader in Mrs. Lopez's class at Palm Desert High School. Okay. And first place and $700 and her artwork displayed on a billboard goes to Gabriel Coloma, a 7th grader in Mrs. Moore's class at La Quinta Middle School. Let's give them all a round of applause. Congratulations. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Introduction of new or recently promoted employees. We have none. Board and superintendent comments. Mr. Duran.
I just want to congratulate the students on the wonderful art we just witnessed. I think that was incredible. The detail, you take a look at stuff like that, and I'm amazed by it, probably also too because I cannot draw, but I just love the fact that they've taken such incredibly their talents, and they've honed them with the help of their teachers and, of course, their parents who support them every single day. Keep up the good work, students. Art, for me, is really where it all begins and ends. I love it so much. So thank you again. Congratulations to each and every one of you on your awards. Thank you.
Yeah, I second that. The pictures, I'm just like saying, wow, 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 for all these pictures. Those are amazing. I think it's because I'm not an artist that I appreciate it so much, but you guys did amazing work. And you're so young, so you're just going to go up from here. So I look forward to seeing what you do in the future. I also just wanted to say that I attended all the graduations, and I appreciate all the staff, our security, of keeping us safe at the graduations for our families, and congratulations to all the graduates and the families. I also attended, for the first time, I'd never gone to a promotion except for my kids, which was a while back, at Carter Elementary, and for the 5th graders going into junior high. And it was quite an experience. It was pretty emotional, but it was really awesome. And I just want to congratulate all of our 5th graders that are promoting to junior high, and our 8th graders that are going into high school, and to have a safe summer.
Yes, that was amazing artwork. So to you artists here in the room, just thank you for that, and thank you to our sponsor, the Fosters and the agricultural nonprofit. So we really appreciate you guys being part of the community. And the graduations, did get a chance to attend all the graduations. It's a great time for a family and loved ones to recognize the students. Today was the end of another school year, so we want to thank our site staff, our district staff, everyone who made it possible to have another successful school year. I know there's a lot of work that goes into it, so we're just appreciative of all your efforts. Summer school's coming up, so if you haven't signed up, make sure you do. It's a great opportunity to keep learning while having fun. So we're going to make that a fun time this summer. So please consider that. And it's a lot of work that goes into it, so we want to make sure that you guys get recognized for all those efforts. And that's it.
I'd like to congratulate all the artists in the group tonight. Those pieces of art were very amazing, and I love that one of them will even be on the billboard when we are driving on Interstate 10. That's really an honor. But mostly to just keep up doing your artwork, keep at your talent, and enjoy it. During this past couple weeks, I was able to go to all but 2 of the graduations. I went to La Quinta High and Amistad Summit, Palm Desert and Horizon, all great celebrations for these seniors, and each one just keeps you smiling during the whole event. I also went with Trustee Porras to watch the Atlas Adult Transition Ceremony for the kids that are there at that transition school from 18 to 22 years of age, and learning all the life skills that they need to go further on. And that was very inspiring. Also, just as my colleagues did, to wish everybody a safe summer and take advantage of the fun activities going on at summer school, along with the learning mornings and the fun activities in the afternoon. And also a thank you to all the staff that has worked so hard this year to make it a successful year, that they find some time to rest and rejuvenate for our coming year. Can't believe I'm saying that, but tomorrow's the last day. Anyhow, thanks for all you do, and thank you to the parents for supporting your child's education.
I agree. The artwork is amazing. I look forward to seeing more art in our schools. I also want to thank the principals for coming and supporting your students. It's always nice to see you guys here to make them feel more appreciated. I too attended 4 of the graduations, and I want to congratulate all of our graduates, also the 5th graders and the 8th graders that are going on to middle school and high school. And I do personally want to thank Ms. Porras and Dr. May Volmar for coming out to Carter's promotion ceremony this morning, because my daughter was there. And I especially want to thank Dr. May Volmar for tricking me and showing up and telling me she wasn't coming, for supporting my daughter in something that she's worked really hard at, and that's perfect attendance for her entire elementary school. So I was grateful that she came out to acknowledge something that she's put a lot of effort into. So thank you.
Well, I just want to echo the artist. The work you did is absolutely amazing. It really is incredible. And I think even for being as young as you are and exhibiting such great talent, absolutely keep it up. You all have some bright futures ahead of you if you want to go into any kind of career that has you using those skills. You definitely will be incredibly successful. And I just want to echo what Ms. Pierce said. Really so grateful to our staff and to our parents and our students for another really amazing school year, and so appreciative for how hard our staff works each and every day. So please do take some time this summer to rest and recoup. We need you desperately, and so please take care of yourself, and sure summer school will be another great time.
Okay, I'd like to give everyone the opportunity at this time to go and celebrate with your families, unless you plan to stay for the remainder of the meeting. Okay, public comment on open session items. Communications from the floor. In accordance with bylaws of the board number 9323, time is reserved for oral communication by members of the Board of Education or by citizens. Citizens wishing to be heard on agenda items, regular or special meetings, and or non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, regular meetings only, shall have a 3-minute limit. A total of 20 minutes will be reserved for public comment on each item. The board president, with the concurrence of the board, may extend this time if deemed appropriate, due to the number of citizens who wish to speak on an item. In accordance with the law, the board cannot take action on any item not appearing on the agenda, as indicated in bylaws of the board number 9232.2. Individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda, regular or special meeting, or non-agenda regular meeting. The board shall limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. Please be advised that there is a possibility that some of the items discussed during public comments will not be developmentally appropriate for minors. We ask that parents use their discretion when choosing to remain in the boardroom during public comment. If you choose to leave the room, you may wait in the overflow location at the end of the hallway, and you will be notified when public comments have concluded. We do not have any public comments, but 2 online public comments. Number 1, Brian Hauser. Dear members of the Board of Education, I am writing to express my deep disappointment and concern regarding the behavior of a board member during a recent high school graduation ceremony. This event is a significant milestone for students and their families, a moment to celebrate years of hard work, dedication, and achievement. It is a time meant to honor every graduating student equally. Unfortunately, this year's ceremony was marred by an incident involving one of our board members. Following call out of names, this board member took to the microphone and proceeded to single out his own family graduating. This act was highly inappropriate and disrespectful to other graduates and their families. Graduation is a collective celebration of students' achievements, not an opportunity for personal recognition or favoritism. The board member's actions were not only self-serving, but also distracted from the significance of the occasion for everyone else. It is disheartening to see such behavior from someone in a position of responsibility and leadership within our community. This individual should be setting an example of fairness, respect, and integrity. I urge the Board of Education to address this issue seriously. It is essential that our leaders understand the importance of their role and impact of their actions. The board member in question should reflect on his behavior and recognize that the graduation ceremony is not about him, but about every student who has worked tirelessly to reach this point. An apology to the students, their families, and the community would be a step in the right direction. I hope that in the future our graduation ceremonies can remain focused on celebrating the achievements of all students equally and without any such disruptions. Next is John Parker. Good evening, board. I was able to read the portion of the LCAP draft. I would encourage parents to familiarize themselves with this valuable document. It's a detailed overview of what's happening in the district and the district's plans going forward. I got a kick out of 1.3. Additionally, a universal tool called phonics for reading was introduced to support students in grades 3 to 5 who are struggling with foundational skills in the English language arts. Phonics is how we learned English in the 50s. I had thought this the other day. We should select a school to use the curriculum and teaching methods of the 50s and see what the student test scores are as a result. I think you would be surprised. Maybe consider bringing back flashcards for math along with the phonics to learn English. I still remember my multiplication tables. I don't need to tell you how complicated the job of teaching has become. Too many chefs in the kitchen. As stated in 1.8, the challenge was that it was laborious work. Out of context, but I'm sure the sentiment applies elsewhere. 1.7, how schools can continue to meet the culture and climate needs of our students. I assume you're referring to the heat in the summer. Again, climate change is a redistribution of wealth scheme. As with the rest of the woke agenda, I would recommend eliminating it entirely. As resources diminish, that's a good place to start cutting. I wish you the best in the challenging year ahead. Information. La Quinta Middle School ball team participation in the Global Conference on Educational Robotics in Concord, North Carolina from July 26 to August 1st, 2024. Staff conference items, Dr. May Volmar.
Yes, we have 2 staff conference items this evening. For the first one, I'll turn it over to Dr. Wood.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome up to the dais Gabriela Llamas, our Local Control and Accountability Plan Coordinator, who will be presenting our 3-year LCAP.
Good evening, trustees, Dr. May Volmer, and cabinet members. Tonight, I'm excited to present the draft of our 24-25 Local Control and Accountability Plan. or LCAP for short. The LCAP describes the strategies and services that our district plans to implement to improve student outcomes. Oops. Your LCAP packet for this evening contains a copy of the presentation, an infographic that summarizes the LCAP, a draft of the annual update, and a draft of the new LCAP. We have tabbed the different sections of the LCAP document for your convenience. And the first tab is the budget overview. That part of the plan will be addressed by Mr. Aquino at the end of the presentation. As mentioned earlier, the purpose of the LCAP is to improve student outcomes, specifically for English learners, low-income, and foster youth. The Desert Sands demonstrating growth as measured by federal, state, and district assessments. Goal 2 focuses on college and career opportunities. Goal 3 addresses safe, secure, and positive learning environments. One thing that is new this year in the LCAP is the introduction of equity multiplier goals. The California Department of Education designated 4 schools in DSUSD as equity multiplier schools. The schools are Amistad High School, Horizon School, Summit High School, and Madison Elementary. The schools were selected based on non-stability rates greater than 25% in the school year 22-23. Schools received equity multiplier grants based on their student population. The funding for these schools becomes effective in the school year 24-25. Actions for these schools were developed within the goals that you see here and with input from educational partners in their schools. Goal 4, using a multi-tiered system, all students, including SED, English learners, and Hispanic groups at Amistad, Summit, and Horizon schools will show progress in English language arts on the 2024 California dashboard. Goal 5, Amistad, Summit, and Horizon schools will increase the number of students meeting the criteria for CCI preparedness by 2% annually as measured by the 2024 California dashboard. And Goal 6 reads, utilizing a multi-tiered system of supports, the ELPI at Madison Elementary will increase by 2% annually as measured by the 2024 California dashboard. In Goals 4, 5, and 6, you will not see actions that are labeled contributing or not contributing since the funds are not LCFF. These are the action areas for Goal 1, and a new feature in each of the 3 goals is that our actions have been unbundled. And what this means is that each action now shows its specific funding allocation. And we don't have any new actions, but one of the changes that we did make is that we regrouped actions that are associated with the academic support of English learners, and group them in this new action area named English Learner Supports. This action area now includes dual language immersion, which used to be in Goal 2 of our previous LCAP, and you will also find the position of Multi-Language Learner Coordinator in this area, which was previously under Goal 3. There are no changes in Goal 2 except for what I just mentioned earlier regarding DLI, which can now be found in Goal 1. In Goal 3, we have 9 action areas. Action Area 7 was named Communication in our previous LCAP. We renamed it to express our commitment to transparent communication with our community. It is now called Communication, Equity, and Accountability. Action Area 9 is where we grouped our foster youth student supports. And now I'll talk about the action areas for our equity multiplier goals. Goal 4 will have 3 action areas that support professional development around data analysis in Tier 1, SEL, mental health support, and parent engagement. Goal 5 will have 2 action areas. One action is being CCI prepared, and another one in parent engagement. Goal 6 also has 4 action areas: data analysis and Tier 1 support, instructional materials, SEL mental health support, and parent engagement. The equity multiplier goals and actions will be reported on the LCAP for the remainder of that funding source. Besides the unbundling of actions and the equity multiplier goals, there are several new components in the LCAP, and this is because the California Department of Education adopted a new LCAP template this year. This slide shows all the different components of the LCAP. The parts that you see highlighted in yellow are the parts that are new in the template this year. The reflection section focuses on the annual performance of the district. It offers us the review of our district's performance on the California dashboard. The technical assistance section will show areas of growth for the district, which are listed as red indicators on the California dashboard. You can see which schools and what student groups have red indicators on pages 3 to 8 of the reflection section. And our district's plan for supporting the schools and student groups with red indicators will be found on pages 8 through 10. Another new area is the section on increased or improved services, which has the same name in the last plan, but it now has new requirements. For every action that is contributing, we have to identify the need, describe how the action will address the need, and tell how effectiveness will be measured. Input for the LCAP was captured through collaborative discussions and activities in committee meetings. To ensure that all the community could participate, we used thought exchange surveys. Families, staff, and students were encouraged to participate, and the thought exchange feedback was then analyzed for key ideas, themes, and concerns that influence the analysis and development of the LCAP. This slide shows how the input from our educational partners influenced the development of the plan. Mindset training and the Don Johnston Toolkit are examples of professional development offerings that will be available for our general ed teachers that support instruction for special ed students. Culturally relevant teaching topics will be embedded throughout the PD sessions for administrators and teachers this next school year. Mental health is going to continue to be supported as noted in the actions listed. Support for chronic absenteeism will continue, and schools with red indicators will be given extra support. The community asked for support for our asylum-seeking students, and Action 1-10C and 1-10E especially support our refugee students. 1-10C speaks about training for designated and integrated ELD, and 1-10E is the action that involves the teacher coaches that support our classroom teachers with the ELD training and strategies. Our community continues to show a favorable response to having clean and safe classrooms, so these actions will continue. And we're responding to feedback regarding translation for our Arabic families. Action 1-7C in the LCAP has expanded to meet the needs of Arabic families, but also the new home languages that we have in DSUSD. To provide clarity to all educational partners, a visual or infographic version of the LCAP is generated. And this abbreviated version of the LCAP captures critical information found in the document and summarizes all things LCAP. This infographic also provides a summary of LCAP funding. And to address the funding overview, projected revenue, and budgeted expenditures, I will now introduce our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, Mr. Jordan Aquino. Thank you.
Thank you. So part of that LCAP overview is just a pictorial representation of our district's general fund revenues. And so what you see in front of you on the left side is a breakdown of all of our general fund revenues, our operating budget. And to the right of that just breaks out the 54% of that is the LCFF funding, and then 257 million of that is LCFF funding, and then the supplemental and concentration portion of that makes the 80 million for a total of 338. So just an easy way to look at the total revenues that the district has and the general fund. Oops. Here's another budget overview for parents. This is just an expenditure summary. So the total general fund expenditures, not to include transfers out, is 489 million. And the LCAP plan document, so that large document that shows all the actions and the costs associated with that, make up $217 million of the total budget in the general fund of 489. Now, we don't stick all the expenditures in the LCAP, because then the LCAP will be 50 billion times longer, and you're going to be reading action items on utility bills. So the LCAP addresses student outcomes, addressing students, at-promise students, so it's targeted more for student outcomes and student achievement, not necessarily encapsulates all the district's budget expenditures. And so that's just a quick overview there of that. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Aquino. Do you have any questions?
Well, no, I'd like to just begin by commending you and your team and everybody on the excellent presentation and the information that you provided for us this evening. I wanted to say that I think the LCAP, outside of probably negotiations of budgets, the most important document I think we oftentimes have to deal with as a board. I wanted to thank you personally, Gabriella, for the time you've taken. Also, a couple other things I saw in there. Overall, just the mental health and wellness component of it, I think, is always something that I'm extremely attached to. So I was proud and happy to see that into the report. The 44 languages is another thing that I think that the community members outside there need to know, anybody watching, that you have to deal with 45, or 44 at least, different, if you spoke to me, you'd speak the 45th language, but anyway, 44 different languages that our district has to deal with. So just, it goes to a credit to all the people on your team that work diligently every day to help deliver the best services that we can provide to our students on a daily basis. Thank you so much, and thank you there for your, what's his name there, Jordan? Yeah. For bringing us the numbers, but I do appreciate that because, we often tell people, I think, that they don't realize that, we're like a $500 million company. $500 million. I mean, it's been like that for a while. We've been, budgets have, of course, not grown in the magnitude that I believe the services needed, that we need to provide the services that are needed to the children of this community. But when you look at it that way, and we're one of the largest employers in the district, a document like this really serves the purpose of providing the direction and basically the goals, right? How do they say it? The meta that we have to have to provide the services of the students here. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no questions, but thank you. I appreciate it.
You noted that one of the differences this year was just how you itemized the expenditures for some of the items that go down. It's pretty extensive documents. Just want to say thank you for bringing more clarity to where the actual funds are going, and thank you for the presentation. I know it's a lot of work to go through all these things, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation as well. I just had a question. With this, inside the actual document that's bound, it says increased, improved services. I haven't had a chance to compare it, but this, the one that's an update, is even more updated than the bound one? More up to date, up to the minute?
Yeah, and if I could just take a moment to just give you a little bit of explanation about the two separate documents. The one that's labeled the update, it closes up the LCAP that we've had for the last 3 years.
Okay.
And the draft will be our new plan going forward into the next 3 years.
Okay.
Once it's approved, it will come together into one document.
I have nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to the team that helped put this together. Thank you.
Good evening, President Watson, members of the board, Dr. May Vollmer, cabinet, members of the press. Today we're going to present the proposed 2024-25 budget. So you've been reading a lot of headlines, whether it's through email, through the news, but the governor has a huge deficit that needs to be addressed. He's proposing cuts not only in this year, but in the 2 subsequent years, completely obliterating the reserves this year and next year, finishing it off next year, and doing some kind of weird accounting maneuvers in order to pay for a lot of things in the education's budget. In addition to that, there's significant cuts all around his budget. And so I think, and I highlighted these words here because these aren't really the greatest when it comes to future forecast, but deficits, depleting state reserves, a funding maneuver, and one-time education cuts doesn't address a long-term issue when a lot of those expenses are ongoing. So that's just something to keep in mind. Here's a look at our kind of a cost of living COLA history. When we adopted a budget, when the board adopted a budget last year, we were showing in that budget, we were showing an 8.22, what turned out to be an 8.22% COLA, but then in the out year we had a 3.94% COLA in our projections, in our multi-year projections. And we started seeing that, you know, based on trends and inflation, we knew that the COLA wasn't going to be that high. And the LAO put out a forecast that said, hey, the COLA for next year is going to be around 1.27. And turns out that COLA now is 1.07. So that's a significant departure from what we were originally estimating last year for what the COLA would be for this year. What does that mean in financial terms? $10 million. And that's a chart there. You can see the difference. So a 3.94% COLA would have given us $347.6 million. A 1.07% COLA is going to give us $338. Again, just another way of looking at the change in revenues from the 23-24 year to next year. Again, if we were using the original Department of Finance estimate from last year, we would have dipped just $7.6 million. But that number now, with updated revenues, is $338 million. So that's a $10.4 million difference than where we are at right now. Next year, we are forecasted to receive $338 million, so $10.4 million less next year, this coming year. Now, I put on here revenue growth balances rising fixed costs, because in a normal circumstance, or well, not normal circumstance, but when you look at the budget in kind of a perfect world, that COLA provides us an increase in our revenues to help us do things that we want to do, whether it's add programs, give employment compensations, in addition to paying what we have to pay under an obligated agreements that we have based on our salary schedule, right? We're an industry, as Mr. Duran was mentioning, $500 million operation where 70+% of our expenditures come in the form of people. And so on the salary schedule, you get a pay increase in the following year depending on where you're at. And that, for us next year, is going to be $4.8 million, or close to 4.9. We had a pension increase. There is no increase to the STRS rate, but there is an increase to the PERS rate. Just a little kind of additional note for you. A classified employee, we get taxed 40 cents on the dollar. And for a certificated employee, it's just a hair under 25 cents on the dollar. So there's the pensions and the costs, the statutory costs, are tied to the salary. So when salaries go up, so do our tax obligations. And then utilities. I typically don't throw utilities on here, but next year we're looking at around $721,000 in utility increases. That's a $5.9 million increase in our budget where we're getting less money than we did the previous year. And I did some calculation, which took a little bit of work. If I were to assume, because the state revenues are based on a 3-year rolling average now of average daily attendance, but assuming we did not decline the past 3 years, we don't decline at all, we would need a 4.35% COLA to pay for that. So now we're going to travel back in time, and we're going to go to the 2022-23 year to 2023-24. We gained $19.8 million, and that was based on an 8.22% COLA and a little less than a 2% decline. That net impact gave us $19.8 million. So that if you look on the left in that kind of yellow chart there, we're at 19.8. What did we do with the $19.8 million? We paid for our step and column, so that year it was $4.3 million. Our pension increase was $928,000, and that's because the PERS percentage went up from 25.37% on the dollar to 26.68% on the dollar. Then we paid out utilities. So the utility increase was $721,000. In addition to that, we gave a total employment compensation increase to staff of 8.44%. So when I draw a straight line from that 19.8 and cut it through, and there's a lot of other things going on in the budget, but I'm just kind of highlighting the major parts to it. That excess cost is dipping into fund balance. Now, we know that because we have approximately 32% of our fund balance to our total budget still there. So we have a larger fund balance. I would say we're higher than the average. So from a strategic perspective, we knew we could afford that. The question is how long can you afford that? And what actions need to happen in order to make sure that you're maintaining a balanced budget? And so, yeah, that's just a cool little sum I saw. I was like, oh, I'm going to throw that in there, 8.22. Now we're going to go back to the future. Marty! Okay, here we go. So again, summarizing, we have $5.8 million of increased costs in combination with a $10.4 million drop in revenues. You add those together, you get a sad face. And that's $16.3 million that you don't have, right? Because you didn't get more money, you're losing money. We are losing money. Here's again, what drives our funding is enrollment. So we get happy when we see new housing development. We get happy when we see, other affordable homes coming into the community because we feel it could potentially bring students. But if we don't have the infrastructure to back up growth, these students are, where are they actually coming from? This is a big question. So we're seeing a continued decline. The state of California is seeing a continued decline. The past, since 2017-18, we've declined 1.79% on average. And last year it was like around 2 point something. We are forecasting a decline of 99.99%, so about 1%. And the reason that it's not near the average is because we've included 2 months of transitional kindergarten into these projections, which we feel from last October to next October is going to be an increase of 160 TK students. So we have that built into the projections. We have it built into our staffing. We are planning on that increase at our school sites. Now I added this. This is an enrollment by grade level. The previous chart did not include charter schools because the charter schools don't contribute to our general fund revenues. But when you're trying to understand where are we heading in with enrollment? We include the charter schools, right? Because we have a charter elementary school, we have a charter middle school, and those students matriculate into the high school. So to keep fair with an enrollment analysis, we throw both of those schools into this analysis to see where are we at as a district. Now, if I do the average from kindergarten to 12th grade, okay, not including TK, just because that has been shifting and kind of changing over the years, right? So the TK, you could be 5 years old up to April 2nd, and you can enroll. Next year, it's going to be all the way up from September 2nd to June 2nd. So anytime you turn 5 within that period, you can enroll in TK. This average here is you have, per grade level, is 1,936 students on average per grade level. And I drew that line on there so you can see, I'll ask your question here in a second, Ms. Pierce, but you could see that line and where that imbalance lays, right? That difference there in students, those students are going to graduate year over year. And so just as an example, I added this on here, that cohort of students from 9th to 12th grade, that's 8,583 students. When I look at the following cohort that's right behind them, that's 7,805 students, a difference of 778 students. Now, if I were to estimate what I think based on the Departments of Finance's COLA projections in 27, 28, or whatever year that's supposed to be, it's going to be around $16,600 per student. And what does that mean to us from a financial perspective? If we lose 778 students, that's another $13 million that we will have. So that $500 million budget is going to drop by 13 million, and it's going to do so on a continual basis, right? And that's not a one-time impact, that's an ongoing impact. So unless, and I know the cities are talking about how can we increase, the community where, you're bringing jobs, because that ultimately brings students, and bringing students raises revenues for the district, right? So, or that people are having more babies. There's one or two factors there. But you could see here in this graph is that the trend of students in the district is tapering. Now, all that bad news, and then I'm going to show you this year's and how we ended, and this is great news. Right? You look at the budget, and you're like, this is great. We're doing a great job. We're ending the year with a positive budget. Approximately 32 some odd percentages, or 32% of the total budget in the general fund. Now, this is our multi-year projection in the unrestricted side. So there's two sides of the budget. The unrestricted side's more, flexible, restricted, a little bit more targeted. You can only do certain things based on the details in the grant or whatever. But we're looking at a structural deficit, which is a combination of declining enrollment and a 1% COLA. I mean, it's not a lot. And increasing salaries, increasing utility costs, those types of stuff. And then the restricted side, again, when you see negative numbers there, that's a good thing, because you want to spend down those dollars in the years that's meant for those students. So there's a lot of things that have happened over the past couple years with COVID funds, ESSER, all that stuff. So we're working to spend those down over multiple years so we could spread out the needs that we need to address. And this is just how that looks all combined in the general fund. Oh, I'm sorry, Trish. Yes.
Two questions. Our revenue growth back in 22, 23, and 23, 24 was that 19 million. That didn't include any of the COVID funds. That's just our regular income from the state and federal, right?
That is just the LCFF change.
LCFF change. Okay. And then the charter schools, are they about 1,200 students, like 600, 600?
I believe Washington's in the 700 plus, and then Palm Desert Charter Middle School, I think it's 14.
Yeah, almost 14.
Almost 1,400 students.
Thousand students.
Yeah.
We don't count on enrollment, but we count for
Yeah, so I'm going to swing back to that just for a quick second.
He's just saying.
The reason why I show it here as a decline and I don't include them in this slide is because these numbers of students is what generates our income for our general fund. This grade enrollment by grade level comparison just shows kind of that underlying issue that we have, that we're the charter schools, us, and anyone else with a similar kind of representation, that bubble that we have where each year we are receiving less and less students. Yeah. So here's just a last chart, and in the printout, it didn't show what's what. I didn't put the legend on there. But you can see the green is the funding, right? And so the reason why I put it together this way was just so you could see the correlation. It's not a simple calculation, right? You have declining enrollment, you have the COLA going down, COLA going up, and just the relationship with those two things, how that drives revenues. So this just kind of gives you a little bit of a easier way to kind of comprehend that. Governor's budget sucks. Sorry. Average decline, we have been facing a huge decline, 1.79%. And we talked about the decline for next year. The major pressure on our budget is the fixed costs, the things that are not controllable, right? The salary schedule has inherent increases built into them. Pension costs have been constantly going up, and you can't control the utility expense, right? So that goes up on the natural. So what we need to do as a district is be very cognizant in making sure that we're monitoring our fiscal health, right? Which is a combination of spending down our fund balance. We don't want to have and keep this high fund balance. It's great for a business guy, but it doesn't show that you're using your resources for the students, for improving education. So we have to be just very mindful of our ongoing revenues, our ongoing expenses, and how can we balance all that, considering the state's revenue projection is very bleak. It's not great, right? He has a huge deficit that he still needs to address. The things that I didn't go over is the funding maneuver, right? The manipulation that they're trying to do with Test 2 and Test 3 in the 2022 year that ultimately will rebench our Proposition 98 funding for education at a significantly lower level. So and that's why I say it sucks. I mean, sorry, I know I get passionate when we talk about that, but those are things that are going to hurt us. And so, there's a lot of risks built into this budget. Right? There was a lot of risk in his budget when they were projecting a 3-point whatever COLA at that time, right? Because the IRS did a tax delay. They didn't know what the personal income taxes or capital gains were because people weren't filing till October. And by the time they received that revenue projection, they realized they were $26.4 billion in the hole. So there's a lot of things that are hamstringing us. And so we just need to be very careful. Any questions?
Well, again, thank you for your report. As I stated, probably one of the more important ones. Yeah, you're absolutely right. When I look at those numbers, and when you went to the 7805, which I'm talking about that level of 4 grades that are 4 years from today, and that's 7805, and I just want to remind people, sometimes I like to think, and that's like if everybody went through the system and graduated, because sometimes we do get some loss of students through those years. Maybe I don't have a question, but I do have a comment that it's just, I think it goes, and I'm speaking to, I think everybody in this room would agree, but to anybody out there, that the fundamental process of funding education, because we are not populating at levels that we had before. We aren't building as much in certain areas, and some areas do basically, like the story was years ago, a person buys a home in a neighborhood, they have the 2.3 kids, and then they live there for 40 years, and so we don't get any more clients. All right, so that's kind of, we're in that phase of development, I think, as a community. And so the message I basically have for folks is that we need to start looking at another way, that education can be adequately funded, because as you stated, things like salaries, utilities, pensions are fixed growing costs that aren't going to go any further down. They're only going to grow. And also too, our needs, and there's at some point when there's only so much we can prune to basically try to do things like this. So I, for one, I just want to let you know would do, and I think that comes basically from us talking to our legislatures and people like that, because the funding formula is kind of in another generation. And I think today we got to figure that out. But you, Jordan, do a fabulous job of not only running the numbers, but explaining them in a way that is very articulate and spot on. And I want to thank you for that. And I feel very confident in your leadership in this department. And I want to thank you publicly for you and your staff and all that you do. It means a lot to the community. And I think a lot of folks don't realize just how difficult it is for you to navigate, information like that. For example, when, personal income tax and all these things don't happen at a certain time, we get the May revise and you get the June budget. And I was around when the years when we couldn't get a budget till July 28th because they're still fighting in Sacramento, over who's going to get whatever. So again, I know it's a difficult endeavor. And again, my public kudos to you, your staff, and everybody that you help. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions, but I agree 100% with what Mr. Duran just said. So thank you.
You're welcome. You forgot my name like about 10 minutes ago.
I did?
No. Just,
Mike did. I didn't.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Ditto what Mike said, but also just, as you hear about many districts and the positions they're in, it's good to know that we do have some reserves, and we're looking to utilize them for our students, but grateful for the opportunity that we're at where we're at. Understanding that we have to, obviously keep an eye on the budget and be mindful of that, but ditto what our colleague said.
Thank you, as always, for your great presentation and willingness to answer questions and explain it to us. Thank you.
Mr. Aquino, I appreciate your passion and your honesty. I just have one question. Are you, the utilities, the increase of the $721,000, do you always assume that, or you're assuming that because that's how it increased from 23-24?
So the number that you saw that was the 23-24 or the 22-23 number, those were actuals. So I just asked staff to pull those categories and show me the change from one year to the next. So that was the actual cost of that analogy where I think we added in where we were kind of in the space going back in time.
Yeah.
That was the actual increase.
So for the projection for next year, you're just assuming using the numbers from this year?
Yeah, I believe it might have a slight increase to it.
Okay.
But yes, close to that.
And then I just think it's important, just in conversation that we've all had with you, that the public know that you're not waiting for doomsday, that you guys are making the changes now to prepare for any of those decrease in funds, correct?
Yeah, we, as a cabinet, district, all our directors, we're always looking forward, which shows true through our planning meetings and different things like that. But, when we were even discussing things like program enhancements, and in whatever form that may be, we were looking at our multi-year projection, anticipating the 1% COLA. So that was all part of that consideration, because we already saw trending in that direction. We didn't need, the Department of Finance to tell us the COLA changed. We were already alternative planning with the future forecast.
Thank you, Mr. Aquino.
Thank you.
Okay, public hearing. Public hearing number 08/2023-2024, Local Control and Accountability Plan. Opening public comments at 8:04 p.m. Is there anyone wishing to make a comment on this item? Hearing none, closing public comments at 8:05 p.m. Number 2, public hearing number 09/2023-2024, High School Financial Literacy Textbook Adoption, opening public comments at 8:05 p.m. Is there anyone wishing to comment on this item? Yes. Hearing none, closing public comments at 8:06 p.m. I'm going to read slower. Number 3, public hearing number 10/2023-2024, High School Advanced Placement Psychology Textbook Adoption, opening public comments at 8:06 p.m. Is there anyone wishing to make a comment on this item? Hearing none, closing public comment at 8:07 p.m. Number 4, public hearing number 11/2023-2024, High School Advanced Placement Language and Composition Textbook Adoption, opening public comments at 8:07 p.m. Is there anyone wishing to make a comment on this item? Hearing none, closing public comments at 8:08 p.m. Number 5, public hearing number 12/2023-2024, High School Advanced Placement Chemistry Textbook Adoption, opening public comments at 8:08 p.m. Is there anyone wishing to make a comment on this item? Hearing none, closing public comments at 8:09 p.m. Last one, number 6, public hearing number 13/2023-2024, 2024-2025 budget adoption, opening public comments at 8:09 p.m. Is there anyone wishing to make a comment on this item? Hearing none, closing public comments at 8:10 p.m. Okay, 17, general functions, business services. There are 9 items in general functions, business services, with 17.1 and 17.2 being resolution items and requiring a roll call vote. Is there a motion to take items 17.3 through 17.9 as a group or individually?
I move that we take 3 through 9 as a group.
A second?
Second, Pierce.
Any discussion? Hearing none, calls for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-0. Is there a motion for item 17.1? Is there a second?
Second, Porras.
Yeah.
Roll call vote. Mr. Duran? Aye. Ms. Porras?
Aye.
Mr. Alvarez?
Aye.
Ms. Pierce? Aye. And I'm an aye. Motion carries 5-0. Is there a motion for item 17.2?
So moved, Alvarez.
Is there a second?
Second, Pierce.
Roll call vote. Mr. Duran?
Aye.
Ms. Porras?
Aye.
Mr. Alvarez?
Aye.
Ms. Pierce?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion carries 5-0. 18, general functions, educational services. There are 14 items for general functions, educational services. Is there a motion to take these as a group or individually?
Make a motion to take them as a group.
Is there a second?
So moved, Alvarez.
Any discussion? Calls for the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-0. 19, general functions, personnel services. There are 5 items for general functions, personnel services. Is there a motion to take these as a group or individually?
Motion to take them as a group.
Is
Pierce.
there a second?
Second, Porras.
Any discussion? Hearing none, calls for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-0. 20, general function, student support services. There are 2 items for general function, student support services. Is there a motion to take these as a group or individually?
Take them as a group.
Is there a
Pierce.
second?
Second, Alvarez.
Any discussion? Hearing none, calls for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-0. General function superintendent, there are none. Consent items, student matters. Dr. May Volmar.
Yes, so in closed session under item 3.1, stipulated expulsion case 23/24-44, on a motion made by trustee Porras and seconded by trustee Alvarez, the motion carried 5-0 with the board accepting the recommendation of the stipulated expulsion. Item 23.2, expulsion case 23/24-25, on a motion made by trustee Porras and seconded by trustee Pierce, the motion carried 5-0 with the board accepting the recommended expulsion order. Item 3.2 this evening in closed session, request to postpone hearing in student case number 23/24-01 on a motion made by trustee Alvarez, seconded by trustee Porras, carried 5-0 with the board accepting the recommendation to postpone the hearing.
Thank you. Consent items, business services. There are 6 items in consent items, business services. Is there a motion to take these as a group or individually?
So moved, Alvarez.
Is there a second?
Second, Pierce.
Any discussion? Hearing none, calls for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-0. Consent items, educational services. There's 1 item in consent items, educational services. Is there a motion?
Motion to take item, just one
Second,
item.
Porras.
Pierce.
Any discussion? Hearing none, calls for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-0. Consent items, personnel services, there are none. Consent items, student support services. There are 3 items in consent items, student support services. Is there a motion to take these as a group or individually?
Motion to take them as a group.
Is there a second?
Second, Pierce. No, he's Porras. Sorry, I'm looking at her.
What's your name?
Okay,
Ms.
it's not
Flores?
even late.
Oh, okay. Porras, sorry.
Any
Yeah,
discussion? Hearing none, calls for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-0. Sorry. Consent items, superintendent, there are none. Personnel action certificated. Dr. Hyde.
Yes, I have one retirement to announce in our certificated world, and that's Terry Smith from Kennedy Elementary, who's retiring after 10 years of service to the district. So kudos to her.
Is there a motion?
So moved, Porras.
Is there a second?
Second, Alvarez.
Any discussion?
Congratulations on making it to the finish line.
Calls for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-0. Personnel actions classified. Dr. Hyde.
Okay, we actually have 4 retirements to announce, the first being Luis Gonzalez, who's retiring after 18 years of service as a custodian currently at Indio High School. Sylvia Hodges at Johnson Elementary School, a paraeducator in special education, retiring after 41 years of service.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And then Lynn Perper, she's a project manager in facilities. She's retiring after 2 years of service. And Sylvia Quintana, an accounting technician in maintenance and operations, retiring after 26 years of service to the district.
That's amazing.
So pretty amazing. Combined, these 4 employees have contributed 87 years of service to Desert Sands. So again, kudos and congratulations to all 4 of these folks.
Is there a motion?
So moved, Porras.
Is there a second?
Second, Pierce.
Any discussion?
Enjoy your retirement. Wow.
Calls for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-0. Call out of closed session items. Dr. May Volmar.
Yes, tonight in closed session, item 3.3, the board approved the appointment of the following individuals. For certificated management recommendation, Robert Cullinan, Indio Middle School principal, passed on a motion made by Trustee Duran, seconded by Trustee Alvarez, with a unanimous vote to accept the recommendation. Second, classified management recommendation, Mr. Brad Fisher for Director of Classified Personnel, on a motion made by Trustee Porras, seconded by Trustee Duran, with a unanimous accepting of the recommendation.
Suggestions for future agendas that receive at least 3 votes. Mr. Duran?
I have none this evening.
Ms. Porras?
I am none.
Mr. Alvarez?
I have none, but I do have a comment.
Okay.
One of my responsibilities as a board member is to, attend the graduations, and I'm really thankful for that opportunity. And not only as an educator, but also as a member of our community and a board member. And I did have some amazing opportunities at this past graduations. I got to see a couple of students who looked over during pictures and say, hey, you know what? You're my first principal, and I'm taking a picture with my last principal. And that was awesome, and great to see other friends and family also graduating. And I do want to apologize. I overreached by acknowledging some students, and I don't want it to seem like I was acknowledging only some, not all, and for that I apologize. I am proud and honored to have been part of the graduations for everyone, and I'm proud of every single one of them. So.
Thank you. Ms. Pierce?
I have none.
I have none as well. I do want to say before we go, thank you to all of our staff and our students and families, and I hope everybody has a great summer break. Announcements: the next regularly scheduled board meeting will be on June 18th, 2024 in the District Education Boardroom, 47950 Dune Palms Road, La Quinta, California. We do not need to reconvene to close session. This meeting is adjourned at 8:18.